Hi everyone, in this series of videos I'm looking at some of the more commonly used basic modeling tools. In this video I'm going to take a look at some of the options that we can use with the Extrude tool. The Extrude tool is probably one of the most commonly used modeling tools, and variants of this tool can be found in pretty much all 3D software packages under various names. So let's first of all take a look at where we can find the Extrude tool. The first place we can find the Extrude tool is under the Polygons tab in our shelf, and the icon for the Extrude tool is just here. The second place we can get to the Extrude tool is under our Polygons menu set just here, and we'll find it under the Edit Mesh menu just here, Extrude. It's actually the first tool in the menu, as you can see here. Now there's a little setting just above this called Keep Faces Together, and among other things, this is actually directly linked to the Extrude tool and can change the way the tool actually functions when we're extruding polygons. So we'll take a look at that setting and what it does in a moment. But before I start, I will need some form of geometry that I can actually extrude. So I'm going to just select a polygon cube from the shelf, and I'm just going to drag this out. Now it has all the default settings at the moment, and I'll just switch this to wireframe on shaded. Okay, and also hit Smooth Shade All, which is number 5 on the keyboard. Okay, so this way I can actually see the polygon edges even when the object isn't selected. Okay, so let's take a look at the basic operation for the Extrude tool. First of all, it's important to note that the Extrude tool works on both polygons and edges. Most commonly you would probably be using it on polygons, but on occasion, yeah, you can actually use it on edges as well. So let's start off by looking at what the Extrude tool does to a single polygon. So what I need to do is select a polygon first, so I'll just hold down the right mouse button on my object and I will select face mode just here. And I'm going to select this polygon here on the top of this cube. I'll then come up to Edit Mesh and down to Extrude. Now currently I have my tool settings panel open on the right hand side of my interface just here using the tool settings tab, and you'll note that I'm getting discrete settings which are pretty much similar to the discrete settings that we find in our Move, Rotate and Scale tools. In this case, the Extrude tool has all 3 of those combined into one tool. And you'll see that the manipulator handle for the Extrude tool has the elements of the Move, Rotate and Scale tools incorporated into it. So you can see here we've got these arrows, which are the same as the Move tool. We have these little cubes on the end, which are the same as the Scale tool, and we also have this ring running around the outside, which is the same as the Rotate tool. Where this tool differs from those other tools is that this Extrude tool will actually add new polygons or new geometry onto the object when we activate it like this. So currently, even with it just sitting here without me moving anything or rotating anything and so on, there are actually a new set of polygons running around the edge of this selected polygon. Okay, because I haven't moved it or rotated it, you can't see them because they're actually kind of squashed down along these edges, around the edge of the selection. So let's take a look at what happens when I use the move option with the Extrude tool. So to do that, I can click on an arrow and drag it using the mouse. So if I select this vertical arrow, you can see that the polygon selection is moving up and it's dragging out or extruding a new set of polygons around where that selection was originally placed. So the new position of the selection is connected to the old position of the selection with new polygons. And you'll note that there's a new polygon for each edge of the original selection. Now I can also use the scale handles, which we can see here as these little cubes. So to give you an idea of what this does, first of all, if I click on any of the three scale cubes like this, you'll see a fourth one appears in the middle of the manipulator handle. This allows us to scale the selection while maintaining the sort of aspect ratio or the proportions. Okay, so the object or the selection is not stretching, it's actually just getting bigger or smaller, so it's scaling up and down like this. And I'm just left clicking and dragging on that cube and just moving the mouse left and right to do this. Okay, now if I select one of these two cubes and I drag that, let's try this one. What will happen is that the polygon selection will stretch in the direction that I'm dragging, like this. So you'll notice that the object isn't getting wider in this direction, only in this direction, like that. So likewise, if I grab this scale cube just here and I drag that one, you can see it's only shrinking or growing in the one direction, or stretching in the single direction, like that. So let's see what happens when I try that with the third cube, which is this one just here. When I click this one and I drag it, you'll notice that nothing changes. This is because this handle basically is more or less parallel to the direction that we moved the extrusion up. Okay, so because this polygon that we have selected is flat along this direction, it has no height to it. I can't actually stretch it up or down, okay, because it's already completely level. So if I try the rotate value, you can see I can tilt this in any direction I want, okay, like that. If I select the outer ring, that basically will twist it at a 90-degree angle to the angle I'm looking at the object from. Okay, so the camera I'm looking through, what the outer ring does, just like the rotate tool, is it twists the selection around the direction that you're looking at the object from. Okay, usually I don't use this ring, the outer ring, because it causes sort of a much more random rotation like this. All right. So let's take a look. Let's take a look here. You'll notice that I've rotated the face around, and you can see that the manipulator handle is remaining parallel, or in this case perpendicular, I should say, to the selected polygon. So these move handles actually rotate around with the selection. So if I then move this out this way, you can see that basically it's actually just pulling the selected polygon in the direction that it's facing, like that. Now this can be an issue sometimes. Sometimes you might want to have an object angled like this, and then you decide that it's not quite in the right position, so you want to move it again. What we can do is click on this little switch just here. So all I'll do is just left click on this, and you see that the manipulator handle realigns itself with our grid. So it's now working on a world coordinate system. And in this case, it's actually jumped back down to where the original polygon position is. Okay, so this polygon that I've extruded out and stretched and rotated was originally down here, and so the handle, when I hit the switch, it just moves the handle back down. So if I select this and I move it, now you can see that the selected polygon, even though it's on this angle, it's now moving only vertically up and down. So I can continue to turn the little switch on and off and adjust things until I'm happy with the position and the scale and the rotation. Okay. I'm going to do another extrusion just on top of this. So I can either turn the Extrude tool on again, okay, or I can just click the icon. Or another way of repeating the tool that you've just used is to press the letter G on the keyboard. So I'll do that now. Now you'll notice that really nothing changed. But basically what that's done is it's locked in the first extrusion, and it's now added more polygons around the selected edge, and I can now use the manipulator to reposition the selection to create a second extrusion, just like this. Okay, so let's take a look at what these little tabs do off the side here. Now these tabs have only been implemented in the last two to three versions of Maya, if I'm not mistaken. Prior to that, these tabs were not here, and really all you could do was just pretty much use the manipulator handle. So what these do is basically give us numeric values that we can type in for our different values, or what we can do is actually click and drag on the word. So for example, if I click and drag either left or right on the word thickness, it increases and decreases or decreases the number depending on the direction I drag. So if I drag to the right, the number increases, and you can see the extrusion extends. And if I drag to the left, it reduces the thickness. And in this case, if you go far enough into a negative value, the polygon selection will actually push back into the object. So you can use the extrusion tool to either pull sections out of a model or push sections into a model, like this. So the thickness is how far out or how far in the polygon selection is pushed or pulled, like that. The offset value, just here, if I left click and drag on that, the offset is how big or how small the polygon selection is scaled, like this. So once again, if I drag to the right, the number gets bigger, but the polygon gets smaller. So that's sort of a little bit backwards. Logic generally would indicate that a bigger number would give you a bigger object, but in this case, it's the other way around. Okay, so a positive offset shrinks the selection, and a negative offset increases the size of the selection in this case. Now the number of divisions, the divisions are pretty cool. I'm just going to extend this out a little bit. The division value is the number of polygon divisions we get in the length of the extrusion. So if I want to add a series of divisions through here, rather than using a different tool, for example the insert edge loop tool, I can just use this divisions value and dial this up or down. So by adding 3 divisions here, it's giving me 3 polygons along the length of the extrusion, just like that. So I'm going to turn the tool off just there, and let's have a look at what happens when we use multiple polygons. So I'm going to just hold shift down and select these 4 polygons. I'll just press F to center that to my viewport. Okay, so you can see there we've got basically a polygon loop running around our object. So if I select the Extrude tool on this, you can see that the manipulator has positioned itself on one of the polygons. I think usually it positions itself on the last polygon that you select, but when you're doing a large group selection by just dragging a box across your object and you're selecting multiple polygons like that, Maya kind of arbitrarily assigns an order that it's selected those polygons. So you'll tend to find the handle appears sort of just randomly on a polygon somewhere on the model. So once again, it works in exactly the same way as with a single polygon, except this time when I extrude, you can see there it's actually keeping the selected polygons connected together. So we can make this sort of detailed section on this object. Now once again, that works if we drag the handle in like this. You can see that we can push it in and get that kind of shape. Now note what I'm doing this. I'm actually dragging on what would normally be classified as the Z-axis handle, which is this dark blue one. You can see down in the corner here we've got our little axis indicator showing the directions of our grid, and the blue one is usually the Z-axis. In this case, the Z-axis handle, the blue handle, basically always sticks out of the object. Okay, the Y and X-axis handles generally situate themselves along this surface of the object. Okay, so the blue one always sticks out. So that's the one that you grab if you want to extend or extrude something out or push something in like this. Okay, so let's just do that. I'll just do another extrusion, so I'll just hit G, and if I use the offset value here and just drag that to the right, it will kind of shrink the selection in like that. And I can do another extrusion by hitting G, and I can maybe use the thickness value and drag to the left to shrink that in. So you can see there, pretty quickly I can start to create some interesting shapes. So the extrusion tool is really good for creating pretty complex shapes relatively quickly. Okay, so let's have a look at what happens. I'll just turn this off for a second. Let's have a look at what happens when I switch off keep faces together. For this to work, the first thing I need to do is deselect any of the polygons that I'm using, like that. So I just click in an empty spot on the grid. I then come up to Edit Mesh and turn off Keep Faces Together, like that, and you'll see that it's not ticked anymore. Okay, then I make my selection. So in this case, I'm going to select, in fact, what I'm going to do is just select all the polygons here, like that. I'll grab that one, but I'll deselect this one at the bottom. So basically I've just got all of these polygons like this. I'll just turn the grid off as well, just to get that out of the way. Alright, so let's turn on the extrusion tool again. So I'll do it from the menu again so you can see where that is. Extrude, just there. Now, as soon as you turn that extrude tool on, it has added those polygons, okay? And I'll show you a bit of an issue with that in a second. Okay, so you'll see here that I've got my manipulator handle. Nothing seems to have happened, but if I drag this, you can see that each of the polygons now separates out and has its own little extrusion. Now in this case, because of the angle of each of the individual polygons, each of those individuals is actually moving directly out based on its own angle. So this polygon up here, you can see, is coming straight out of there, and it's separating away from this one because they're at two different angles. Okay, this polygon obviously is facing this way, and this one up here is facing up here. So this one's going to go this way, and this one is obviously heading in this direction. Okay, so basically it's separating them all out. Now, one of the cool things with this function is really great for building mechanical shapes on things like you know, vehicles, spaceships, that kind of thing. If I just take the offset tool or the offset tab here, and I just increase the number of that, you can see each of those individual polygons shrinks like that. So we're adding an offset around the outside edge of those selected polygons. If I extrude again, just by just turning the tool on again or hitting G, and then I take this and push it in like this, you can see I start getting this really kind of interesting shape. If I just switch back to object mode and deselect everything for a minute, you can see that I'm now kind of getting this framework, what looks like a frame. So the Extrude Tool is fantastic for that kind of thing. You can make all sorts of really interesting grill shapes and so on. It's really, really cool. Now, one of the issues with the Extrude Tool is, let me just select these again. Okay, so one of the issues with the Extrude Tool is when you turn it on, like this, if you accidentally click on an empty spot, it deselects the polygons. Notice the cursor is still it's still the little arrow with the square on it. Okay, that means the tool technically is sort of still active. Okay, I can see I've got this manipulator tool active over here. So the Extrude Tool is still switched on. It's just that I've deselected the objects. Now, if that happens, what you need to do is just press undo, which is the Z key. And what it does is it reselects your polygons. And with the polygon selected, you can then see the manipulator handle. What you need to avoid doing, if you accidentally deselect like this, what you need to avoid doing is turning the tool off, reselecting the polygons like this, and then extruding again. Okay, now the reason for that is that you can see there I'm starting to get these weird shapes popping out. Because I've just extruded again, it's actually extruded twice. The first time it's extruded the original polygons I selected, and the second time it's extruded the extruded versions of those polygons. So if you accidentally deselect when you've got this tool switched on before you move your object, before you do the actual extrusion, what you need to do is undo to get rid of those initial polygons. So just keep that in mind. So I'm just going to undo there. Let's undo back to there. Okay. So the last little thing I'm going to do is keep in mind as well that keep faces together stays off until you reactivate it. So usually, because you don't use this as often as the together activated mode, usually it's best to turn this back on as soon as you're finished. This doesn't work if you've got objects or polygons selected already. If you select a bunch of polygons and then you realize that this needs to be switched either on or off, you need to deselect the polygons, switch this on or off, and then reselect them. It completely ignores the selection if you just switch it on while things are selected as well. So it's a bit of a pain in that regard. So generally check this before you do your selections. Okay. So the last little thing that I want to try is extruding an object along a curve. So if I pop over the curves menu just here, and I'm just going to create sort of just a random curve like this. Okay, we can see that there. And just to kind of adjust things a little bit, oops, I'm just going to move a couple of these edit points around just to give us a more three-dimensional shape. Okay, something like that. You can see that there. And I'm going to take the curve here, and I'm going to basically just use the rotate tool. Oops. And I'm going to rotate this around until it's kind of almost kind of perpendicular to the polygon. What I'm going to do is put this end of the curve on this top polygon up here. So I'm just using the move tool and the rotate tool. So you can see that there's now kind of sticking out of the top of that shape, like that. Okay, I'm going to freeze this object or this curve currently because I've just rotated it around and moved it. I've got all these values here. So I'll just go to modify freeze transformations, So the curve stays in the same shape, but these are all zeroed out. Okay. It's been a long time since I've done this, so bear with me. I'm going to select the face, and I'm going to hold down Shift and select the curve. Then, fingers crossed, if I hit Extrude, you can see that the selected polygon has jumped down to the bottom of the curve down here. So now what I can do is go in and increase the divisions just here, and the more divisions I add, the more the extrusion will follow the curve. Now you'll see here that dragging this gives us a maximum of 25. Sometimes you can actually manually type in a higher number, so I might try 100. And you can see there it will actually, you can type in a higher number than the actual slider goes to. So I can actually create very complex extrusions using a curve and the Extrude tool. So that's basically it for the Extrude tool. You can see it's really versatile. It's pretty quick to use, and you can get some really nice detail into your models depending on what you're doing. So with that said, I will end this here, and I'll see you next time.